Okay, hello. Welcome to another unofficial ED Films stream. My name's Daniel Guys. I'm the creative and technical director at ED Films. I'm just going to be doing another unofficial stream here, just as I chip away at another character for a current project that we're working on. This character is a little deer. This little deer is just in the shot for just a brief moment, and we actually I'll just show you the clip here. We're just putting this bear in, or sorry, the little deer in right here. It's a pretty quick, pretty short little shot, quick and simple. It's a little bit longer in the actual project. It seems really short, but in the animation it'll be probably 2 to 3 times as long. But essentially, we just have this little deer that the bear is looking at, and we have to show it reacting, stepping out a little bit, being super cute, and making it really sad that the bear is going to eat it. Or essentially, the bear doesn't want to eat it, so we have to make it look like it is completely unappetizing, and the bear doesn't want to devour this little guy. There's no lighting on this right now. I painted it really flat. The point with that is that it will actually be lit with effects a little bit later. So this character here will be it's mostly rigged up. I did an auto rig. I'll go through the basics of it really quickly. I'd never auto rigged a an animal like this before. Most of them have been humans, so I wasn't sure if it would actually work. So I hesitated a little bit in streaming this. Um, but it seems to be working pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how it's set up. I mean, it's a little bit mushy. I would never have posed it like this if it was supposed to be used in more shots, but because it's actually only used in such a short shot, there's really no point in having a really elaborate character rig. So it's pretty basic. These a lot of puppet tool. I'll just break down the parts for you. There's lots of layers. If you look at it, it looks pretty scary. I think we're at almost 100 layers, but it's actually not that bad. Most of them are little puppet pins and stuff like that for the legs and everything. So I'll just show you this really quickly. Maybe actually let's take a look at one of the front legs because they're a little bit more elaborate, only by 1 or 2 pins. But the kind of show the extent of the most elaborate thing going on here. So this is the front leg, and these are all the little pieces, the little pins here. It seems like a lot, but it's not really. I'll just show you what they are. There's this back shoulder piece, and this one here. And the point of these is so that when the actual leg moves, actually, let's just hold this up here. About this one. When the leg moves, these give a little bit of a more of a connection to the body. So you'll see afterwards that look how if you see how much this pin is rotating, these ones aren't rotating the same. They're actually just following along with the shoulder a bit. So the point of that is to just give it a little bit of a connection to the body so it's not just a pivoting shoulder. Because if these were parented directly to the shoulder, I may be able to show how that would work. It just wouldn't look, definitely wouldn't look good. So if you look at that like this, and now we move, oh, they're not even parented properly. We gotta undo that. Oh, I didn't do it right. Anyway, so let's put it to arm. That's where they would normally be. They would normally be parented to the arm if you were actually doing this more like a cutout character, and they would just spin really far. And once you put that on top of the character itself, it really won't look very good. The whole arm will look like it's floating on top of the body. So once, if it's locked on properly, or with something that's a little less extreme, like the shoulder blade, which I have it onto the equivalent of the clavicle, it won't rotate as much. So this here, this shoulder here is actually the clavicle, the same as a clavicle on a person when you're doing the auto rig, and this travels a little bit. You can see it's moving around. This clavicle is what these two joints are parented to, or these two pins. So they're just following that around. This is not a pin. This is just a point of reference for the arm. So this is just for the rig. This isn't pinned to anything. This is just actually holding on to these little pins here. Hope that, and maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is the most complex type of leg I would ever really do, and this is again just to maintain a slightly organic form. So we take a look at this again. You'll see that there's a little bit more of a sense that it's sticking to the body. Now again, this puppet doesn't move a lot, so I wasn't too worried about it being like perfect. If I wanted to be more perfect, I would have shaded this down a lot more and added a few more levels of gradation between the edges, because this character is really just stepping into the light and looking really nervous, and we're supposed to be all like feel sympathy for it. So it's such a short shot, I didn't go too crazy, which is also I'm not going to go completely crazy rigging it up so that it's really dynamic. But this is essentially what it looks like. There's the similar set of pins and stuff like that for the body. They're over here. So these are all the body pins. They're in the neck, the middle. I put one around the shoulder, which I'm calling the chest, the back, and then the end of the butt. And then I actually create a different set of pins that I can rig to, and that's what these pins here on the actual body are parented to. They're parented to these yellow guys that I make. And this is just to simplify things a little bit. I'll have these big yellow ones that are representing the different joints, and that's a little bit easier to do the auto rig with. There we go. Okay. What else do we have going on here? I'll just basically show the thing moves around. So right now it's just kind of, this is how it works if you're pulling the pelvis around. The master pelvis is this one. It's a little bit slow because there's a lot of triangles on these meshes to make them look good. Here's the head or the neck. And if I want to rotate that, you can just sort of see how that all works. And it's got a little jaw. So here with this, we can rotate the jaw like that. And if we want, we can rotate the little nose. Now that's obviously too extreme, but it's designed for sniffling. Or like for making his little sniffy nose go up and down a little bit. Let's hide all this stuff away. And then I've got the ears. The ears took me a few goes to get them to look good. So I tried the pins a couple of times, but I wanted it to make it look like I could have the ears down, looking afraid. I was trying to rig something that was a little bit more simplistic, so that I would only have to have one controller, but to actually make it look good, I needed to be able to access these, at least these two. There's only 4 pins in the ear. The only other pin is the little pin at the end that's the tip. So there's 3 down the core of the ear, and then the rest are just along. You can see all the rest. But with these ones, I'll be able to like put the ears down and make the little deer look even more sad, like a baby calf or something. So the deer looks really sad. The head's not 3D. There's not a lot of special stuff with the head. It's pretty basic. So that's what I'm going to be setting up next here, is dealing with the head. The head has a couple of opacity states. So I've got a number of different heads that control the blink. So I just painted a blinking head. Again, because the shot's so simple, I didn't separate the eyes into left and right. I've just paired them together. Usually when you do a blink, you might want to be able to offset the two, but I decided, you know what, this isn't worth it, so I'll just make this little guy blink together. So it's nice and simple. And then I have under here, underneath the head, I have the eyeballs. And in the eyeballs, I have the little shiny parts, these things. And then underneath is the pupil. And that's what I'm going to be animating around to make the little guy look around. So we'll just pull that around, and we'll do that on both eyes. And this will just remain static. They're not too complicated. So the place I want to set up my head controls are on the actual head controller, which is in the auto rig. It's all right here. I guess I could put it up at the top. I don't think it matters the layer order, but I'll add my extra controls to this part right here. Okay, so there's a little bit of deformation happening, which is good. I think I might want one of those pins to be on the neck piece to deform with it. I have two neck pieces. I've got one long neck piece that's part of the body, and then I've got one that's just in front. And it was to create a little bit of, I do it by default. It just adds a little extra form to the neck. So that there. And it's got three little pins right here. And so I could parent one of those to the head itself. Right now they're parented both to neck. I don't know which one. This is that's the bottom one. We leave that one where it is. This one and this one. These should be parented to what? Are they neck 2? I'm going to parent the back one. Maybe the front one. We'll just parent it to head. BC head right here. BC head is just a yellow little null object here. I do this because if I have multiple layers or multiple objects pivoting off the head, I can just use this one BC head piece to do my auto rig with, and I don't have to worry about all the extra puppet pins that are floating around attached to the head piece. Okay, so let's just see how that works. I want to see how it behaves now that we've attached it, because I want a little bit of movement in that neck thing when the head goes up and down. So you see now the whole neck is moving a little more, but I also want to make sure it doesn't look bad when it goes up and down like this, which it doesn't. It looks good. When they were both parented, it didn't look good at all. But I think having one of them parented, you can see how we're getting a nice bit of shape changing in the neck and the texture's moving a little bit, but it doesn't look like so much like a separate piece just moving around. That's kind of what we want. The point of this painting was to look a little bit like my grandma used to have these books from probably from the 50s, I think, possibly even a little bit earlier, of little animals and stuff like that. And it was sort of Disney-esque, but maybe a little bit pre-Disney or post Snow White for sure. But this idea of these like really cute, sort of illustrated, realistic illustrated forest creatures. So that was the idea of this, is to get that little 1950s vibe. It's just sort of a bit of a gag, which is fun because we don't do a lot of gags or jokes in Edie films. Okay, so that little head thing's working better. Oh, I want to just hide that yellow controller. Now, I didn't go through this step by step for anyone who's watching this later. Now, the point, obviously, I've missed some things. Like if you're curious about doing an auto rig of a full creature, I like to go back and review things later for something like this, since it takes so long to feel it out. But the thing I'm hoping that you can take away from this is just little tiny little tips or ideas that might make some things clear if you're avoiding or intimidated to crack open a rig like this. It might give you a little bit of sense of where it could be going so that it's not so intimidating. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to set up a little blink controller, and I'm just going to use a null object, and I'm going to parent it. Same thing as the jaw and these things. So these are all just null objects that they actually do something, but you can just rotate them with your plus and minus keys on your keyboard. So just with the number pad right here, I don't know if you can see that. So this number pad, you can use the plus and minus on the number pad on a PC, I believe on a Mac as well, to rotate those. So you can animate them with a key press instead of having to select a property and doing it manually. I like to use it because I can hop from one thing to the other and just press plus, minus, or shift plus and shift minus, and you can see I get animation right away, and that will create an auto keyframe. It makes it a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to do the same thing for the blink. I'm put C as my prefix for controller, and I'll just call this blink. And this is going to do a number of different things. It's not just going to do the blink, but it will also drive the value of a few other things that will sell the blink a little bit better. I may even use it to actually position the eyes. We'll see. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Just going to put it over here for now, and we'll call this blink, and we'll parent it to the head. I think with this one, we could probably, do we want to parent it to the BC head? Yeah, 37. We'll just do that. Just like the other ones. That's that yellow one. I'm not parenting it to this controller, which is something you could do for sure, but I don't think I have to. I like to just try to keep things consistent. Okay, so this is the blink controller. So from here, we'll connect this over to an opacity value on the head. I've said this on a few other tutorials before, but I'm not sure whether they exist or not anymore. I like to use transparency instead of time remap. I used to use time remap to do things like this, like mouth positions and stuff like that. But I find transparencies more predictable, and I have less problems if time codes don't line up exactly. So for that, I'm just going to create a variable, and I'll create an if statement, stuff like that. I'm just going to drag this down here. Just making sure I'm just opening the two compositions. It makes it a little bit easier for me to find their location because I'm not really good at remembering things. So this one I'll call blink equals, and I'll pull that blink from the rotation of there. Okay. And then from here, I can pretty quickly create a really easy if statement. If blink equals 0, I could actually two equals 0 if it's going to equal one number without a greater or less than. From here, I can just say that if it's 0, you don't have to do this. You could just go, you can go value equals 100, or you can just, I think you can just go 100, else value equals 0. So basically, super simple. This says, oops, I think I might have ruined it already. If blink is equal to 0, oh no, that should work actually. I'm wondering what I've done here. No, the blink rotation is, it looks like it might be not perfectly 0. That's weird. Obviously doing something pretty basically, making a little basic mistake here. I could have my statement wrong here. I might need to do an else if, but I shouldn't have to, because greater than 0 shouldn't make a difference, but no, it doesn't. Let me just figure this out. Okay. If blink is equal to 0, try less than and equal to. Okay. And if it's greater than 0, it should go, it's weird. Let's see. See what happens. Plus. Okay, that's working. It must just not be at perfectly 0 or something. It's really weird. It's got a negative. It's weird that it has a negative. It's probably because it's parented to something that has possibly has it's parented to a 0 object. So if we go here and let's go look at our C head. BC head is parented to BC neck, but one of these things probably is parented to a 0 object, like 0B shoulder right or something like this. One of these guys, which might be flipping the rotation order. So if I really want to be smart, it's good. I'm glad we did this because you can see where there can be problems. You're seeing right away that I'm getting a negative 0 in the blink. If I parent this to, instead of parenting it here, I could parent it directly to the head controller. I'm still getting a negative 0. There's something in this whole thing has flipped it a little bit. But that's an important thing to notice, because these guys are at plus, and this should default at plus 0, not negative. But it seems that a few have pushed slightly into the negative, so I'm not quite sure exactly why that is. But with that in mind, it was making my if statement not react properly, so I had to go blink is equal to or less than 0. But I was going to do that anyways because I want it so that if I'm making the rotation going down, 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 I don't want the head to disappear because there's going to be some other things we do with this. But if I go up, I want the head to, we'll step through the blink cycle, okay? So we can do this on each one of these heads. Let's turn them all on. And we'll just change the value here to if blink is, I'm a little nervous about this because this needs to be 1. We'll see. It may not have the same problem. If, okay, else, and then this should just be else. We don't want an else if. So if blink is equal to 1, it should be opaque, and if not, it should be at 0. And this should be the same thing here. We'll test it in just a second. This is a really basic expression that is actually can be really useful and very versatile. Okay, 3. Okay, so those have all gone away. Let's see if we actually step through it. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now, for the last one, I don't want it to disappear if I go above that. I mean, you could. It doesn't really matter. But I think what I'll keep is I want to keep it, we'll do the same thing. If blink is equal to or greater than 3, we'll have it opaque. Oh, I have to change the order. Greater than or equal to. There we go. So now if we keep going up, it'll just stay opaque. Now with this whole, because we're using this rotator, we can do a couple of little different tricks, which can just bring a little more life to something like this. For example, let's say we have our ears. So what I can do here is if I let's just take this rotation for instance. I'm going to take this and we're going to take the blink control. Blink equals this guy's rotation. Put that there. Okay. So now we have this variable called blink, and we can do a little dot value at time minus 0.05. Okay, and then I'll just go plus blink. I'm going to do this to both of them. I'll just offset them slightly differently. And again, because I'm not using this character for a lot of different things, I'm not creating variables, controllable variables inside the effects palette, just because it's not entirely necessary. It's just a lot of extra work for something we're only going to use one time. So now let's just animate this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2. Oops. So we've gone ahead 4 frames. Oops. Come on, 1. Oh, we want to change the direction. 2, 3, 4. Hold that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll put this at 0. Okay, so we want to change the direction of this other ear because it's going the wrong way, which is the purple ear. So we will go blink is this, and we will go transform rotation. Oh, we don't want equals. We want minus blink. And this one, we want plus blink, not equals, because we want to take whatever we animate. We want to be able to animate still on top of this, but just have the blink also affect it. So with that, and I might reduce its, so let's go times 0.5. I'm just going to reduce its intensity times 0.5. And then we'll experiment in here so we don't really have to create variables and control them. Okay, there's something happening here. We are going to plus 1.5. Oh, so usually I do these on holds. The only problem with that is if you use tweens in between, you're going to get absolute values. So we can do a couple of different things. You can go I think you could go, I'm just trying to think. We could change this and we could add some math to this, like this. where it only reacts, I think, I'm just going to try something, where you can have it only react to a whole number. I guess JavaScript math. We want integer, I think. There should be a math.int or something. Could do round. Should be a way to get an integer. Like math abs means it stays always positive. But there should be a way to define something where it's an integer and not it, so it won't include decimal points. But I can't find that at the moment. And it may not be under math. It could be under variables or something, because I know in Maya you have string variables, you have integer variables, you have float variables, but I don't know where that is here. So one thing you can do, you can have else if statements. So let's just go here and we'll fix these two things here just to make it's just something a little, I guess it's a bit easier. The easiest thing would to be able to go blink equals, like it's an integer so that it only cares about solid numbers and everything in between it's fine. If blink is, essentially we can say greater than or equal to 2. And I think you can go like this and blink, it's a little bit annoying, is less than 3. I think that works. And let's just do it for this one too. Greater than or equal to 1. Then you do this and. Unfortunately, you have to type blink in again. You can't just go like and less than 2. Okay, so that one's fine. That one's fine. It's just more the in-between ones. If blink is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so these ones won't care about integers, but it's these two middle ones. So hopefully this works. We shouldn't get a blank frame in there now because it doesn't care. So you can see all the little values in between, even if they're not solid. 1.3 should give us a blink instead of one of them disappearing. And 2.4 should give us a blink without it disappearing. So now we can jump in between those values. Like I said, again, the best thing would be is to have the variable only react to an integer value. But I can't figure that out at the moment. I could look it up. I suppose let's just look it up. Might as well. This is what Twitch is for. Get value AFX expression. So I'm just doing a quick search here. Simplifying decimal numbers to integer. Math round. Okay, I kind of thought that might be it, but the only thing with math round, your decimal number. Okay, do you want to try? Maybe we can just try that. So here, instead of having and, you could say blink. I believe you go, because right now we're going to say blink is equal to, and then we take this JavaScript math and we can go, wait a minute, math round is the value, but then it says here, I'm just going to try to figure this out. Math round, your decimal number here. Okay, so maybe that should turn it into a whole number, I'm assuming. Okay, so let's just try that. So we'll go math dot round bracket. Now we shouldn't need this. Let's just see. Hopefully I don't have to do this all over again. Go back to Bambi. So now let's just put in a value of 2.3. 2.5. No, that's not good. That's not what we want. So it doesn't like 2.5. I have to look at how math round works. Sorry, this is kind of annoying. But I am curious about how it works. I guess we could just look in the help actually. Let's just look in the help here. Should be in here. We go to expression reference. This is how I used to learn expressions all the time. Math dot. This should be under the JavaScript. I just want to see what it actually does. This is not where I want to be. I don't love how Adobe's help does this for searching. So if you want to search for an actual thing, one of the things, or for something specific in the reference, expression references, the best way is to look in this stuff right here, and it should be under a category, which should be JavaScript math. Might be under other math in this categories. No, I don't see it there. Should be just above this then, if it's in the actual order. Because it's under JavaScript math, we might be able to just do a search on JavaScript math. Well, that's kind of just, it's a little bit annoying that you can't just find it. There's other math. It's not vector math, because vector math is position data, stuff like that. That's super annoying. It's not even there. Okay, so we go JavaScript math.round. Okay, so here's something. Okay, so if it's at 20.5, it rounds up to 21. So that's the thing I just wanted to see. I wanted to see what math round does. And we're seeing it now. Not exactly what I wanted. I guess it sort of is because it is an integer. I'm just not getting the results I thought I would get. Okay, let's have a look. I'm not sure why this guy's not working though, because if we're at 2.5, this should go to 3. But if we're at 3, that should be this guy right here. But maybe it's because, oh, you know what? We don't have math round on this one. So let's just do this. Nope. Here we go. Okay, well that should keep us. So I'm just going to do this one too, if it's equal to 1. Okay, so ultimately that simplifies the math or the expression. So it's a little less throwing around if statements and complicating things, and just really simplifying what the information going into the if statement is, which is definitely more ideal. It's cleaner. Okay. And it doesn't get in the way. The only thing we have, what is this? Let me just purge this and make sure we don't have like an old frame sitting in there. Okay, we don't. 0.3. 0.3, if it's rounded, should go to 0. Oh, but we probably have this problem. Right, this guy right here. We need to do it the same math round to everyone. Okay, I think this should solve the problem. Okay, cool. Problem solved. So now that allows us to use any rotation value we want. So that means we can drive other variables with this blink controller and not have it adversely affect the blinks. We can even have eases on them, which we kind of want because we've got these ears tied to it a little bit. So we'll just watch that. So the idea for me here is that the little ears give a little bit added push on that blink, just a little bit extra life in it. Um, if I were to be really specific about it, I'd probably not have the ears kick in until the blink was past a certain value, which would be another if statement. But I'm not, again, it's such a short clip, I don't want to go there. Cool. Let's see again. Bonk. Great. Probably, let's just space these blinks out a little bit because we're going to be testing the blinks for a bit here. It just goes from not blinking right back into blinking again. Okay. Just render this out. Have a look. Okay. Okay, that was a really short little blink, but the general rule of thumb for blinks is that I believe, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Is when you blink, the number of frames to the closed position is like 2 or 3 frames max, and then when you're opening your eyes again, that's a little bit slower. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is when an eye blinks, something important to have is that the pupil will actually follow the top lid down. So it's almost like once the top lid touches the pupil, the whole eye starts to come down a little bit and follow the blink down. So the a big mistake with blinks, excuse me, is what's happening here is the character blinks, but the pupils don't do anything. The pupils are affected by the blink. They're dragged down a little bit. And so it's important to have that as part of the blink. It brings a little more life to the eyes, and it's a more accurate blink. So to do that, we have to link up the eye positions, the pupil positions to the blink, and we have it affected by the blink the same way we've had the ears affected by the blink. If we want to do that, it's probably best to tackle how we're going to approach the looking at feature for the eyes. Like, do we want them to follow the position of this? What do we want to do with them? And there's a couple things we have to deal with here with this guy is he's got these pupils. So this stuff we can all lock up. This is all fine. There we go. I'm not going to play with these things, the little shiny bits. They're fine. Shiny bits don't matter. They're fine. And I'm going to turn this on. Doot, doot, doot. And we'll keep that. This is a shiny bit, I think. Shiny bit. And I don't care about the bottom bit either. But I do care about these pupils. Lock this here. And I just want to actually double check that I locked that one, which I don't think I did. Okay, we did good. So the main thing is these pupils. And kind of want it to feel like this one we can't do a lot with because it's on the side of the eyeball. So we have to be careful with this. There's a couple things that are going to happen with these pupils as they could be nested into their own comp, which we can do, or they can just be floating around in this space, which is also fine. Um, probably, probably the best thing to do would be to pre-compose them, just because it keeps the layer space values simpler, and also we can apply a radial effect like a magnifier or bulge effect onto the eye itself and isolate that. So if I go like this, I'm going to press Control Shift C. We'll leave all attributes. Eye left pupil. That's good. There's like a little comp now. We'll go in there and we'll make it gray so we can actually see what's going on. Okay, and I'm going to make this bigger and I'm going to make it a square composition. So let's put 150 by 150. Hopefully that's not too big. Let's have a look. It's not too bad. And the other thing I want to do is in this eye pupil, what I can do is take this guy, not this one. Um, oh yeah, that's the pupil. And that's this. It's weird that I put eye right above, even though it should be behind the whole head. I guess it doesn't really matter. Let's lock this one for now. Okay, so this pupil here, we want to take this thing and mask it on top. Because right now, if that pupil moves, it's going to, oh, it's actually clipped off by the head, so it doesn't matter. Sometimes what I have to do is create a mask on this because the pupil, if it moves around beyond the edges, it's going to be go outside the head. But I was smart for a change and built the head on top of the eye instead of vice versa. So we're good. So we have this pupil. One quick way to create a nice eye bulge or a rounded looking eye is Control Shift Y, or I can't remember all of a sudden. New adjustment layer, Control Alt Y. Okay, and then we'll create a new effect, and we call it Grab Distort. I usually use Magnify or Lens Warp. So let's see how Magnify looks. Magnify might not suit us because it does make everything so much bigger. Let's try CC Lens or Bulge. Bulge is another good one. So go to Distort. Let's go to Bulge. There we go. This we can at least see the radius of what we're doing with the bulge, and it doesn't have to be square either, which is really cool. So with this, we have the bulge height. But what's cool about this is if I pull this around, the eye gets this round feeling, right? So what I can do is just size it down so that it's the same size, and I have this like cool little pupil shape, this nice round eyeball. Okay. Let's go here, check this position, 75, 75. Okay. So here the eyeball got a little bit bigger. But if I'm just going to, actually, let's just bring this one back down. Put everything in the same comp. Put head blink here. Pupil here. Okay. If I just take this and I can lock this composition, and then I can go in here, we can watch and see what the eyeball does. You see it has this kind of round feeling to it. Great. Okay. Unlock. Chunk. Then go here. Put this back to 75, 75. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to have the position of that eyeball affected by the position of this thing right here. Two ways we can go about it is we can put a zero object on this. And a zero object is essentially, like, you can use the WIP thing, which will create an invisible position, creates a zero object on a layer. What that does, right now it's parented to the head, but it'll create, well, watch this. It should do this anyway. That's my theory of what's happening. So it's just parented this to 990 CB, blah, 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 whatever. It's created what's called a zero object, which should be just an object down here that is parented to the head. So what happens in After Effects is if you parent an object to another object that's in exactly the same location, so let's just take a look here. See this zero guy? That's it right there. It's in exactly the same spot. It should be at what we were just -250, -100. So all it's done is parented it to an object that's exactly in the same exact spot, and that creates a zero position. If I turn off the parenting, it'll go back to, well, actually, it won't. It has to go back to the head parenting, which is 37. It'll go back to, no, it didn't do what I thought. It's this one. Sorry, guys. I'm not that smart. Okay, -250, -100. So all it's done is it's made another object parented to this head, and now this follows that object, so it gets a zero value. This can be handy because this can now, we can just track the difference from zero without having to do anything fancy to remove the math off of it. So for instance, if we wanted this eye pupil's position to, let's just do this really quick. So we take, let's just go look at equals. Hopefully that's not used in something else. Hopefully it's not syntax or something. So we can look at, we can grab the position here. We're saying look at is equal to the blink position. So now we can do a couple things here. We can essentially say this plus look at. Now what should happen, I believe, because they're both the same, I messed something up. Look, oh right, because I put a space in a line. Because they're the same vector. They both have two vectors, an x and a y. They should add together easily without any problem. So now, but what I also want to do is I want to reduce the amount that. So we'll just go times 0.5, for instance. That just brings, it'll add the look at 0.5 the amount. So that means if I'm in this composition, for instance, when I pull this eyeball around, the eye will move, but I don't want it to move so much based on the movement of this thing. I want it to be a little bit dampened. So I can just do it like, let's just 0.1. And again, if I were doing this for a more robust rig, I would approach this a little bit differently, but this will do for this. Okay, see? So we can do the same thing for the other eye. And we will dampen the amount even more. But overall, I think that's working. I could do with it being even less. Let's try that. That's like super nominal. Well, that's not enough. Okay. If you were to create a variable that like a slider or like an expression slider, then you could change these numbers in the expression slider and not go back to the code over and over again. Cool. Great. All right. So now I'm going to do that for the other eyeball, and hopefully we'll get these in the same place. So that's at 0, 0. This one should be at 7. So I'm just double checking, making sure I'm not getting any weird math. I can do the same for the other eyeball, although it's not in its own composition just yet. So we want to take this eyeball. There's the pupil there. Let's just change this composition color to gray so we can actually see what's going on. Cool. And we'll take this pupil right here. Is that the pupil? Yeah. And we'll nest it in its own composition, which will be smaller than this one. This one was, what was it, like 250 or something? 150 by 150. So this one, we'll make it smaller. Control Shift C. I write pupil, that's fine like that. Leave all, great. And then we will rescale it. Put this one down here. And we will scale this back up to 100 and 100, which is quite large for this, but that's fine. And then what we can also do is we can just copy the effect here, bulge. Oh yeah, and there's a taper on this, so we can put a taper too, which is probably a good idea. That just softens the edge so it's not super hard. It doesn't really matter, but not for the way this eye is working anyways. And we can put the quality up a little bit higher if we need to, but I'm not going to do that unless we get close to it, because that can slow stuff down significantly. So let's copy this. Bonk. We'll go to I right and Control Alt Y and paste. And then we'll have to recenter this because it's designed for a bigger composition. This should be 50-50, maybe. We'll just center that. There we go. Let's go here. So this pupil is going to be offensively large, as you can see. This one we might actually have to create a layer mask on because it's not behind a head. Let's just turn this off. And here, if we want to like we can just take a little snapshot of it. When we turn it on, we can look at that snapshot and scale that pupil down until it's the right scale, until it looks right. 30. A little bit bigger. Okay, that's about it. Now this is the one thing. Let's just check its position. Should be 75, 75. Oh no, I just messed up the wrong thing. I'm an idiot. Sorry. It's this one. But you know what? Actually, now that I'm doing that, this should be the same thing too. No, it's not. It can't be anymore because we already scaled it. Sorry, guys. All right. Scale this. Snapshot. Turn off the effect. Snapshot. Turn the effect back on. You can look at it, and then let's scale this down. 70. Look at it a little bit further. 65. Great. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just trying to get something so it's matching roughly what the artwork's intention was to begin with. Okay, that's fine. All right, so now when this pupil moves around, it's going to round off. Now, I think I want this circle smaller. Still, it's just too big because the eye's actually not nearly that big. And in the original composition, we're quite to the edge already. Now, this one shouldn't matter as much because we really aren't going to see this pupil very often, but I want to still respect. Let's just put it more like that. And it's starting quite at the edge, which is going to mess up our composition a little bit. Let's put it, well, let's just put it here. That's fine. And let's just double check here. It's changed the scaling stuff again on me, so I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit more. Hopefully it's okay. That looks all right. Now, we want to take the same position data that we put here. We'll put it on this one. This is a little bit hacky. And we'll reduce the amount here. So 0.025, so it's half. So let's go in here. Looks okay. Let's have a look. Now, in reality, I would never want that pupil to go past that point. So, which, I mean, the reality, when we have this little guy, he's going to just be jitter-eyed and then he's going to look up. Like, oh, please don't eat me. He's not going to, or she is not going to look back this way. But ultimately, if we were to go past this point, we want it to stop. So let's just look at where that is on the x-axis. So 60. We don't want to go past 60. So let's have a look here. Let's go back into this position. So we're adding 60 divided by, or 60 times 0.025. So it's not very far. So ultimately what we can do is another if statement. If, I don't want to have to do math to fix all this, so we go look at is less than 60. Okay. Else, we should be okay the other way, I think. Let's just see, because we may need another one to control this thing. So let's just go value. Well, oops, sorry guys. Ugh, this keyboard's off to the side at a weird spot, so it's a little bit hard to do this. Just making excuses for my incompetence. Okay, so now hopefully what should happen, if this eye pulls over, it should stop. Oh, and now it doesn't move at all. Wonderful. Oh, you know what? It's a vector, so we need to say what aspect. If look at, we need to grab the right value of it. So right now we're just pulling in the whole thing. I think maybe we can try this. Does that work? Let's find out. I only want it to read the x-axis. Okay. So I don't want it, all I want it to do is stop once we hit this, but it looks like it's stopped on everything. It's not letting anything happen once this thing goes past 60. So let's go back here again. If look at is Okay, then what we can do is transform position. Oh, wait a minute. This is a little hard to read because it's all cramped together in here. Okay, so we're basically saying if it look at x value is less than 60, um, move along and do this. Otherwise, we could maybe go. I wonder if we could do this. We could go value 0 equals 50. Or no, what would the value? Because I'm basically I've it's kind of a dumb expression at the moment because we're not taking what was added to it. Um, I'm just basically saying if it's under 60, do stuff. Otherwise, put it right back to where it started, which is not what we want. That just means that, look, once it gets past a certain point, it's going to snap back to the start where it originated from. So if we're all in here and we're doing all this great stuff and then we get past x60, it's just going to go right back to its starting point. We want it to stop wherever it is, which is a little bit tricky. How would we do that? That gets really complicated. It gets a little bit more complicated to push that around. So, I'm just trying to think. We want to limit the range within what it works, but I don't want to create a whole bunch of extra math here. I want to keep this super simple for you and for myself. One way to do that would be well, we could do it this way. Um, this would be if we positioned the eye where the furthest point it could go over. This is a bit of a cheat. This isn't like this will only solve this problem. It wouldn't solve multiple problems. Then we can take the transform position y and continue to add this to it. But what we want then is we don't want this to move over. We want it to be as far over as it can go. Let's just see what it does. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is not the smartest at all, but this is how I used to go through this stuff. Oh, and we're getting an error. Okay. I mean, this is how I used to work through this stuff as a kid. Or not as a kid, like when I was figuring out all my expressions for my own things. And you can see the eyeball's actually floating off a little bit here, which actually isn't bad the way it's fluked out to work. But if we didn't want that to happen, we just have to put a little mask over it, which I'll do in a second. The main problem I'm having right now is we want it to stop moving over after it hits a certain point, but we don't want it to snap back to 0. Um, The other thing we could do is, man, we could take you could take a value at time, or you could say if look at is you want to just take whatever position you want it to stop at. So, okay, this is one way you can do it manually. That's not adding a bunch of extra stuff. Let's just disable this. We'll disable this little thing that tries to stop it. Go here. We remember this is at 0, so we essentially want to go. I'm just going to get rid of this. This is problem solving in real time. Okay. So when we're over here, I don't want it to go past there, which really doesn't give us much. So that's like 68 on this guy. 68 is as far as I want to go. even actually 60. I like 60, which puts the pupil at 51.5. So what you could do is, now that you know where you want it to stop, I wonder if we could do this, is actually give a value, like create a variable that says like pupil stop x equals 51.5, just to make it more smarter-ish. And then we can go if, then we don't have to watch this guy, we can just watch this guy. So let's just see what happens. If we go if, I don't know if this will work. I honestly have no idea. Transform position 0 is less than pupil stop then we'll continue to we'll just do this. We'll do this thing. And then we'll go else oops. We'll take this again. This is a little clunky. This is pretty absolute. Like, there are smarter ways to do this. I'm sure anyone who's like getting into this could figure it out. But I'm trying this way because I'm trying to avoid going really complicated here. Do we get an error? Yes, of course we do. What is it? Did I name something stupid? I may not be able to. This is one thing I may not be able to do. Is I may not be able to call a variable in my if statement like this. Oh, pupil stop x. We'll see. It might work. Okay. Let's see if this hacky code works. I don't think it's working. Because it's just going. It's just going and going. It doesn't care. Is less than pupil stop x, which is 51.5. Unless, wait a minute. No. Oh, I didn't do if transpose no is less than stop x. Do this. Otherwise, let's try. It shouldn't. That's not right because it's not comparative. That shouldn't matter. At least I don't think it should. Sorry guys, I'm just working through something here because it's just going on a mission. Doesn't really care. Unless like what's happening is this is canceling out itself because it's only reading. It reads this and then it goes to well, I'm doing this now instead. It's not taking this as one thing. I'm trying to say that transform position x is equal to this, but then also transform position y is equal to this. But what it may be doing is just continuing to add stuff on like it's just this. Spunreed is asking, do you need a second part to have bracket a dot? I'm not quite seeing that. Bracket dot bracket? I don't know. Is that, yeah, that's possible. Maybe if you could write in your question, just type like what you're thinking the code should be, because that might be it. I might have to have like transform position dot. No, it shouldn't be that, I don't think. Let's just see something. We'll just eliminate this. And let's just see if that works. No, it doesn't. It continues to just move along. So it's not reading the if statement, really. It doesn't care. It's not really listening. So let's just try this. Like it doesn't seem to be reacting to what I've set up. Yeah, spun read it. You might be right. 51.5 transferred. You might be right. You might be right. I'm not sure. I'm really bad with this stuff. I'm really bad with these. I don't remember all this. Yeah, it's not even reacting to anything. Let's just go else. I'm just gonna put a number in. I just want to see what if it's actually reading anything. Because I feel like it's not reacting. Yeah, it just keeps going and going. It doesn't even care. What are we doing wrong? This is going all the way up to 59. Let's just put value equals 0. So it's saying if transform position x is less than 51.5, we shouldn't care about the y. It shouldn't matter. I shouldn't have to specify. Then it should just stop. But it doesn't. Oh, I bet this is super annoying to watch. I'm glad nobody's here. It's just us. Let's have a look at this I all by itself. I want to see where this I is going. Yeah, it just moves on into infinity. It doesn't even care. It doesn't even care about anything. Maybe I just control along. If transform position. Well, let's try greater then and see if that stops anything from happening. What does this say? This says, let's make this a bit bigger. Okay, it's saying it needs to be of a dimension 2, not of a dimension 1. Let's go like this. Okay, so now something's happening. So the value has to be, you're right, spun read. I think you're right that it has to be x and y in the same line. We have to have both values there. It's good to know. If it's greater than 51.5, so let's see if it's, let's put this back to pupil stop x and see if it's reading that. Excuse me. Pupil x. We should have the same result. Great. So it is recognizing the pupil stop x. All right, now let's go back in here and see if we can do anything. No. It's out of control. Transform position 0 is greater than pupil stop x. So let's go less than. See what happens. Okay, now things should move again. But as soon as we get past here, it should stop, but it doesn't care. This is really weird. I find this really weird because I should be saying if transform position x is less than pupil stop x. Unless I might be doing something totally stupid and it might be so obvious. So as I go up here, this is like 60.5 now. I'm self-referencing this x value here. I've gone way past it already and it still doesn't care. maybe if we do, it's weird. I wish this wasn't happening because it makes for a really poor example. But I mean, this is how I figure stuff out. Unfortunately, like, you can see I'm not really, I'm not a brilliant person. I just clumsily bumble my way through this stuff. Um, I just don't want to waste a whole bunch of time on it. It's just weird. It's weird to me. The code feels right, but and it's working. Well, like it's supposedly working, but it's not reading the value right here, transform position X. It's not understanding this at all. It's just not reacting to anything, which is interesting. Like it should, once we get past that point, that should just pop right back to 0, and it's not doing anything. And we can see that this value here is just going up and up and up and up forever. Unless I'm calling the wrong thing, like it should be just right here. Yeah. If transform position is less than 51.5, and we're definitely going above 51.5. So honestly, I can't tell you because now we're at like 59 and still it's moving along. Okay. Are you saying dazed devisit? Are you saying try using value 0 or value 1 instead of transform position? Okay. Like right here, I'm assuming you mean? Like, do you mean on line 2 or do you mean on line 1 of the if statement? I'm assuming you're meaning here, so let's try that. Transform position. Okay, let's try value. What does that do? Interesting. So I think what that's doing is that's taking the look at and adding it to just the x-axis. Let's have a look. So what we should see here is just a transition in the x, no matter what's going on. I don't know. Weird. Okay, I'll try it in the if statement. Let's undo that. Oh, we can't undo. Can't undo. All right, let's try that. If value 0 is greater than, blah, blah, let's see what happens. No, it doesn't care. It's still just flying along. It's almost like it's not caring what I'm referencing. Do I need some separate object to reference that? I can't self-reference this, like this exactly here is what I should be able to do, unless I'm doing something wrong here. But it seems if it's greater than 51.5, maybe, okay, and then next line value without square brackets. Okay, let's do that. I'll do what you're saying. Let's try it out. And you said in the if, we'll go value 0. I'm assuming you mean something like this. Have a look. Still doesn't care. It's like we're getting the same result regardless of how we're typing it. So there's definitely something a little bit wrong. I wonder if we just try a different approach, that if we could do this, if the value is greater than, because it seemed to respond to that, 51.5, then we can go value, let's just see if this works, equals 51.5. Well, pupil stop x. It should equal pupil stop x, but we're not going to do that for now because that's just adding complexity. 51.5. Else, let's just try that. Let's see what that does. Because it seemed to recognize being higher. See, it's not doing anything. If value 0 is greater than 51.5, it's sort of saying that it's already greater than that, which is super weird. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It's so weird. I don't even understand why it's having a problem. It's probably something super obvious, but let's try this. If ponk let's try this. Does this move? No. Man, this thing hates us. Oh, thanks. Sorry. Days to visit. Let's see. I'm just going to grab your code and we'll just take a look at it. And so I'm just copying your code so we can plug it in and see. We'll delete all this. If value 51.5. I'm just taking what you wrote. I'm sure it's very frustrating to watch me muddle through this. I'm just going to paste your code one at a time. Look at dunk junk junk else 0 0 doom. Okay, else. Okay, now I'm not going to copy and paste because everything's quite clear. Else enter tab, and you're saying 0 0 0 comma 0. Let's see what happens. I'll put this back to 50. So basically you're saying the same thing. If value x, which is 0, is less than 51.5, take that value and add look at. Otherwise, put everything back to 0. So let's see what happens. Oh, it's saying there's an error. What did I do? I probably did something wrong. Look at needs 2 arguments. So we need, oh yeah. It's because your look at is lowercase, which means it's trying to, well, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, and property is not a function of what? Let's just go like this. I'll read this better. Comp pupil. They're at line 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Value plus look at. Oh no, it's all right, man. Don't apologize. Don't apologize. I'm just like, for me, it's like I don't know exactly what I'm doing. So sometimes if somebody knows better than me, I just copy and then I figure it out from there. Okay, so this did something, but it went into space. Okay. Man, it's still just partying all over the map. Just doesn't even care. That's a really interesting thing. I've not run into this before, but I got to stop doing this now because we're wasting so much time on it that this is how you end up getting in trouble at work because you start doing this and you get all caught up in this and something that was supposed to take half an hour is now taking all day. So now, we wasted some time. I've wasted time. And now we have to figure out a better way to do this without it being dynamic and responsive the same way we wanted to. However, we still have to make it look good. So right now, this one eye looks great. The other eye looks rotten. However, let's just see what we can do. We'll get rid of all this. Sometimes a good solution is just to start from scratch. We'll take this. We'll grab the same stuff we had here. One thing we could do is just seriously reduce this to like 0.1. Sorry we didn't solve this problem. It happens. Okay, so I've seriously reduced its reaction, but what we want to do maybe is reduce it on, let's reduce it on X and not on Y. Let's add a new dynamic problem here. So we'll take transform position at plus. Let's see if we can do this. Plus, look at. Does anybody know how to add? Unless I mean, without having to separate the variables, add. If we could add look at point one to x and then look at times point whatever something different to y without having to separate them. Because when you separate them, you have to do this. Like, and this is what I'm used to. Position x. I have to set up new variables. Equals this. Oh, this should say 0. It's not working for some reason. So position y is equal to the same thing, but this time it's going to be a 1. And then you have this here where you go position. Oops, I've messed up my typing, my capitalization, caterpillar scroll, whatever you call it. Okay, so we have this, and what we can go is look at is equal to boom. I'm just separating this out just so it's a bit easier to manage. I'm not really good. I sometimes forget how to combine the two together, and now that we're in a little bit of a rush, I gotta just forget a couple things here. So what I've done now is I've just separated this out. Oh, of course we're getting a problem. What do we have here? Array can't expand. What did I do wrong? Position x, position y, position x. Position x equals this plus. Oh, sorry, I gotta do look at. We gotta call the 0. Look at x. Look at y. There we go. That should work. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So basically what we've done is saying is like on the x value, take look at and multiply that by 0.1. So we're taking 0.1% of look at. And on the y value, we're taking 0.25. So it should move significantly more in the y-axis always than on the x-axis. So we'll get the shifting around, but on the x, it'll be significantly reduced. Now I wish it was stopping here, but this isn't even, we're not even, like, this is the thing, is the eyes aren't going to even look back there. I was just hoping to do something that was a little more flexible, but it's not working. So we just have to, like, it's not working because of my ability, my lack of ability to understand what's happening. And I just want to do something else here. What we can also do is just make sure that if we put the bulge so that it's biggest over here, when the eye goes back, it'll get bigger. So let's just go here. This can probably help a little bit. So when the eye goes back here, the eye actually is bigger, and then when it goes over here, it kind of shrinks, scales down a little bit. Okay, and then the other thing we can do is, just to alleviate this problem just a little bit, is take the eye and just pop it over a little bit more. Ooh, that looks horrible. That looks really horrible. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's expand this thing out a bit. All right, now let's see. Days to visit. I also want to just reiterate, like, you don't have to apologize. I'm really happy to have the contribution and to have the feedback because it's really helpful for me. So there's no need to apologize for for me clumsily moving through that and copying verbatim. It's awesome. It's really cool that we can do that here on this channel, and I enjoy people having the patience to give me feedback and for us to try things together. So it's totally awesome. Okay, so I just want to open up. I'm never sure how to do this. I'm not sure if anyone knows how to do this without having to go into this mode thing, but just to make that an alpha mat like that. So this will just keep it so if that pupil goes outside of this layer, this little shape here, it'll just disappear. So we won't have it bulging off the side of the head. Okay, so let's try again. Cool. That looks good. There. kind of solved it. So, we cheated our way around it without having to mess with code. I'm glad we tried the code thing, but it wasn't quite working. So there you have it. All right, let's move along. I think the next thing I wanted to do really just quickly is give the head a little bit of, excuse me, a little bit of movement to follow the eye. Just a bit, just so it orients towards the eye a little bit. Um, Now there's a couple of things we can do. I think this is again one of those things I'm not 100% sure of because we're kind of working in a space that's a bit different than what I normally do here. But what we can do is we should be able to, I mean, you can convert rotations, or sorry, position to radians. But what we want to do is we want to take Y and have that affect the head's position. So we should have the capacity to do a look at call, I believe. And the goal would be to add it to, well, there's two things. Actually, there's something we could do which is probably way easier, is just do this. We could take the rotation value here. It's probably the easiest thing. Because we've zeroed everything out, we can go, let's just put this, we'll close these two guys off for now. We don't need them. So we can take the blink position. So let's just go here and say blink POS equals this. And then we can take this rotation and we can go plus blink POS 1. Now this is going to be too extreme, I'm assuming, initially. So now as I pull this up, whoa, that's not what I want. Okay, great. Oh, also, blink needs to be, if we're going to have blink as a look at that follows a head, we can't have the whole thing parented to the head. It needs to be parented to something else, like the neck, or independent of the whole thing. Because as the head rotates to follow the look at point, the look at point is also moving. So it's going to create this doubled up mess. So the way to fix that is we have this zeroed object down here, the blink object. We just need to parent that to something else. So we could parent it to the chest, or, I want to be careful though, depending on how we're animating. Let's try, what do we want to parent it to? Maybe we'll try the chest for now. So I have these little C, we'll do C, pelvis, C shoulders. Let's just try C pelvis, not CBC. No. Should be down here somewhere. Okay, this one, chest. Okay, so now this should still be zeroed, but instead of like the head being able to torque it all over the place, it's connected to the chest. So it will follow the body, but we may not even want that. Like that's a bit of a problem here because our look at point is flying all over the place and it's not where we want it to be. So let's actually try, let's see actually what the head itself, the head controller is parented to. It's parented to C shoulders. So this is the head controller. So maybe let's put it onto C shoulders. Okay. We'll just have the look at point and this parented to the same thing. C shoulders. Okay. And so blink is now still zeroed because it's parented to the zero object, which is parented to the shoulders. So let's just see if, because we want it to stay sort of attached to the realm of this head controller, but we don't want it to rotate with the head controller, especially if it's a look at controller. Ultimately, what we'd really want to happen is we'd want it to always, like we'd want the eyes to adjust to the position of this no matter where it was in space. We're not doing that. It's a different setup, and I don't want to get into that. It's, a real look at controller is independent of everything. So if this guy's head was rotating, those eyes would continue to look down. They would look down and try to follow it, and they would be looking at its global position, regardless of where it was parented. And it's just it's like a little bit more of an extra setup. and I can't remember how to do it exactly at the moment. I'd have to dig into from comp to comp space transforms and like grabbing the actual position and grabbing where it is and making sure we're subtracting that position from the pupils and all that kind of stuff. And for what we're doing with this character, it's just not, to me anyway, it's not quite worth all the extra effort. We just want it to sort of feel right. The other way to do it is to actually create a look at controller and make them 3D, which works a little bit better. It's a little less like coding and back and forth, but for now, I don't want to do that. For now, I just want it to be pretty basic and still function. So we're going to take this, and we grabbed the wrong. We want to just grab, oh no, this is the wrong thing. This is the ear. That's all good. We don't want to play with that. That's fine. This is done. This is done. And we want to try, where's the head? Here's the head. Rotation. And we just want to significantly reduce this 0.1. Let's try to see what that does. Come on, little guy. Other way. Minus times 0.05. Even less. 0.01. I just want them to barely follow this. This is more, I'm not thinking of this as like a for real look at controller. It's more just a modifier. Just as a little added something that I can throw in on top of the animation I'm already doing, which would, because he already has kind of a look at controller in that this thing, this head control here, it orients, it's got a goal orient. So it's always trying to face the same direction. So if I rotate this here, it looks up. It's always looking the same place. I wonder actually, this guy has a head, a goal orient, which means it's parented to a, it's got already got a little thing on it. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it right now. I do think I want to parent this to something else though. I'm just not sure what I should parent it to. Because the look at controller here, that works great. This is important too, is when you're doing a rig that's going to be used by especially another animator. Like this is not a good thing that's happening. The look at controller is going way down, and that's because I'm assuming because it's parented to the shoulder, and this is rotating. The shoulder is rotating down for some reason. So we need to parent it to something different. So let's try. I mean, we could go as far as just parenting it right to the core pelvis, which should, the pelvis should be parented to nothing. We want the pelvis that's parented to nothing, which is this one. So in that case, let's just have a look and see what happens. The look at point stays where it is, which is fine. If we move this, it's fine like that because the head's orientated properly. Like this is not, I'm not showing a robust rig here, guys. I'm really just showing something that's workable. I'm really just looking for controls that help me as an animator just do something with a little bit of reactivity to it. So what I can also do to this is I can take this here and we can grab this and put it also on this guy, the shoulders. You can paste that as well and make it even smaller value, 0.025. So now this will just, again, really, really basic math that we're doing. Like so basic, it's absurd, but the idea is that it adds a little bit extra control, a little bit extra life to something that I don't have to do as much for. That's all we're doing. We're not trying to solve a big problem here and make this beautiful, amazing thing. But the goal is just to get something that lives a little bit more. So if these eyes are kind of looking around at the bear and it's like, then all I have to animate is this one look at point, and I can get a little more out of this character, just a bit, not anything serious, but just enough. Okay, cool. That's fine. Okay, let's just put that back where it was. I think that's enough for this. Ultimately, I think I just want to. I've got a little bit of up and down on the whole body and the neck, so a little bit of follow. I don't love that dark color that's happening on the top of the eye, so I might have to fix that. If we go into the head and we look at this eye base, which should be here, maybe no, here. This is a problem right here, so I want to lighten that up a little bit. So what I might do is, instead of going back into Photoshop, I can probably just fix that here. Let's just double click on here. And we can probably just pull up a brush. Not a roto brush. No, 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 not roto, not roto. Go away, go away. This brush. And reduce, control, and click to make the brush smaller. And I should be able to paint. I want it constant. I want to paint on the RGB channel. Normal. I'll grab the color here. I should be able to just sort of paint that away. I want a little bit of dark because I want it to feel a little bit like the shadow of the eyelid is there. And then let's reduce the opacity a touch. Another way, obviously, to fix it is just to go into Photoshop and tweak it, but I'm trying to just get this done. It's not going to be the best looking thing in the world. It's not the ideal way to fix something. Oh, and we've destroyed something. There we go. So let's just see if that looks a little better. Boom, boom. Cool. See, it solves the problem, and it's not like perfect, but it solves the problem. Great. Okay. So the last thing we want to do is, like we started this whole mess, we want to do the adjust the pupil based on the blink. And it's pretty simple. Essentially what we do is we just take the pupil, we go into the pupil here, and we have a look at, but we also just need to grab the blink. And that's going to be, excuse me, that's easy enough to grab. Without having to go look somewhere, we can just grab this. We don't need the math round, but I'm just going to copy this from here. We could pick whip it, we could do like a bunch of other things, but I'm just going to grab it from here. Blink, blink, get rid of the math round, because I just want the blink value. I'm just taking the rotation value. The only problem, this is kind of annoying. The only problem is we have to we have to add it just to the Y. So this puts me in a position, at least for my level of understanding, of having to separate the X and Y again and have two separate equations on them. So meaning that we have to set up this variable again, which has been annoying. It's one of my least favorite things to have to do. There's probably a better way to do this, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. The thing about expressions too is like I use them a lot, but I really use the basic principles, the foundation stuff a lot, and it's not the only thing I do. So so right now we're just grabbing the Y value, or no, why would I have to do that? What am I thinking? Plus blink. What is the problem? Transform rotation, position, plus position. Look at. Oh, I see. I see what the problem is. We need to grab. Sorry, doing it again. 0, which is the X value of look at, and Y, because we've split it up now. Again, there's probably a better way to do this. I'm still messing something up. Array can't expand. Look at. Just bear with me for a sec. Transform position. I guess I have to go what? Plus look at. That should work, I'm assuming. What have I done wrong? This is just the clumsiest day in expressions. Some days are good, some days aren't. position of layer 2. I've done something wrong here. Blink equals transform rotation. Okay. Look at equals. Let's get rid of this really quick. Just make sure our problem lives here. Yes. I may have poor syntax here. I'm just trying to see. Oh, thank you. Really? Wait a minute. That shouldn't, let's just hang on. I might not be understanding something, Spunrita. Sorry. Everybody's helping me with code. It's like all over the place now. All right, sorry guys, just give me one sec. I'll try to get this. Transform position plus. Okay, I'm just copying some stuff here. I'm having the worst coding day today. Brain is not there. Oh. Okay, that's what I was wondering. So Colin Harvey CG, he is very helpful. Always, he kind of knows coding a lot better than us or me. So they're showing that this you can do without separating everything, which is kind of sweet. So if we can take 0 plus, like, see, so this, what this does, like I'm just looking at it and it makes sense. Is this is what I was wondering actually, Colin, because this was the thing I couldn't remember. I'm sorry, Colin Harvey CG. I couldn't remember how to, if I just want to add one part of an equation, and when you say, I wasn't sure I could just put 0 there. So we're essentially saying transform position plus look at. So we're taking look at X and Y and putting it on the position. And then we're saying plus the blink, but we're not adding anything to the X of this. So we're adding 0 to the X, and we're adding blink to the Y. It's still throwing me an error. It looks like I've done something wrong. Oh, blink, right. Okay, got it. Capital B. There. That is way more efficient. And Spunrita, I think you're right too. That was, yeah. Okay, so everybody was. Thank you for the tips and points there. This is great. Thank you. This is awesome. Okay, so now when we're blinking, we should have a slight translation on the Y of this, but it has to be pretty big because we only have one. It's translating it by 1. It needs to be a lot more. I just want to double check that that's actually working. This should be slightly different. Yeah. So we want to just take blink and we'll just multiply it up times 5 or something. So now you should see the pupil moving. We'll go even a little bit further. Thanks for all the help. I'm so glad there are people out there on this stream that are way better at code than me that can help everybody so we don't mislead everyone down this crazy path of insanity of not doing things properly. So I'm going to try to remember this really valuable tip that Colin Harvey CG has put in place. And this is so you don't have to split your vectors into independent lines, which just makes for a big mess. You're always rewriting things and it's a bit overkill. But doing something like this where you're adding 0 to the X and adding a variable like that without having to split things is really, really, really helpful. So you could just have a single string of code without having to have a whole bunch of extra lines. So we'll do that to the other eye. So instead of this mess, which we were doing here, actually, I guess, Colin, that would be something too, is in here, we've got separate. I'm going to see if I can figure this out based on what you've put forward as how you do it without splitting this up. So I'm just copying this that you've done here. Actually, I'm going to put blink in here really quick. Get rid of that. blink up here, get rid of this. This is all the same. Okay. So I've separated it out. On this eye, we have look at point 1. So we want plus, okay, so let's just think, we want plus. Can we go plus look at point 1, 0.1, like that, comma, look at, like, can we do it like that? Copy that. 0.25, oops, 0.25, and then bracket like that, and then go plus 0 and blink. Will that work without doing all this stuff? Okay, I've got an error, but I'm hoping it's because I did. I mean, maybe I'm really pushing it there. Yeah. So that won't actually work like that. It's probably because I'm trying to do math on top of the variable, I'm assuming. Because I bet if I did this, it would probably be okay. No, it's not. That's good. Oh, wait, I know what I'm doing. Oh no, I just got rid of everything. Okay. We have to grab, look at 0. No. What do I want to do? Yeah, look at 0. Right. And look at Y. Will that work? Yes. I think it's working. I think it's working. Okay, let's try it. I think it works. Thank you, Colin Harvey CG, for your invaluable input. Thank you, Spunrita, for your input. Cool. I just have to reduce the amount that this is happening because it's a bit absurd for that specific eyeball. A little more. Colin Harvey CG, I actually used on the little bike guy I did when you used an example where you were using some sliders to control variables, and I actually found that really helpful on another rig I was doing, the bike cyclist rig, which I'll break down and show in another video when I don't have this pressing deadline to hit at the moment. But it was really helpful. So thank you for that. I actually learned a lot. It's a good practice. It was a good practice to have something sitting in there. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that. There's more feedback coming in if you guys can see the stream. It's great. Okay. Cool. There, that blink is working. All right, so let's have a look. So what's cool about this is you can see that the pupil is reacting to the blink, and it's almost it's preceding the actual blink itself just by a bit, but it's cool. I feel like it's giving us a little bit of extra life. Colin Harvey also sent me this really cool parenting tool, which I'm going to play with a little more, and then if it's cool, I will demonstrate it for if you want. But if you don't, just let me know. But I'll use it on the stream for sure. I haven't had a whole bunch of time to dig into it yet. I'm just getting back. We were at what was it called? ECGC, which is the East Coast Game Conference, which is right here on the screen here. Doing a presentation, which went really well. We were at this, so I haven't had much chance. I'm just getting back since I was doing that bicyclist. That was due the day before I left, so things were a little bit hairy. So I haven't gotten a chance to do anything since getting back just yesterday. So, all right, cool. I'm gonna have to stop the stream soon because I have to do some other things, but there we go. So we have the basic thing going on here. we have a really simple, crude look at system, which is really, it's not like Colin's going to cringe. It's super basic and it's not actually accurate because it doesn't respect the true world space stuff. It's really crude, as you can see. Once his head moves past a point, it's not actually following it for real. It's more just an adjuster. Just for the specific needs of this shot, because he's such a basic little character, not going too crazy on it. Oh, cool. Colin Harvey CG is saying that we can demo the parenting tool, which is really useful because there's a lot of problems in how we interact with parenting objects in After Effects. And their tool is working. It's really cool. So yeah, I'll definitely demo that. There's a couple other big projects coming down the pipe that'll be perfect to showcase that on. And I have to get it implemented into this, installed and working. And I don't want to demo it without playing with it a little bit first. So yeah. Okay, cool. This is, I would say, essentially finished for what this character is. This look at, the only other thing I guess I could do, which I'm a little nervous about getting into, is having the head move a little bit, giving the slight sense of deformation along. It's risky though. Like, I mean, along so that the face feels like it's turning a little bit. It's super risky. I mean, you could use the what is it? The mesh warp, which is okay. But it requires a little bit of added complexity. I think for the shot is literally like 5 seconds long. I think it might not be worth doing just to get the slightest bit of deformation. I'm not sure. Um, it might even just something to do after the fact instead of setting up a complex rig for it. Like if I were doing it specifically for a tutorial, I would definitely do that. But it might be better just to, once everything's done, go in here and create like a little distortion. There's already a puppet tool on this head, but then I could create. There's a couple of things I could do. I could use the mesh warp, which works fine. This obviously not at this resolution. That's horrifying. But what you can do, and I would try to use as few settings as possible, like as few things as possible. But what you could do is just keyframe a little bit of a head turn, like this. I do find the mesh warp tool really tricky to use though, because I'm trying to click on this corner and I can't grab it. This always happens. So you could do it this way. Um, Actually, if you're rotating a head, the best thing to do would be to grab. It's so hard to work with. To move this like this a little bit, and then pull this one over and kind of make the head a little bit wider. And then the nose would come over like that. So you can see if I turn this on and off, you get a little bit of a head turn feeling. Okay, so that's one way. Oh, yeah. So Colin Harvey saying the reflex warp is preferred. Totally. It's actually amazing. I haven't. There's a guy I talked to years ago who did a film using it and it looked amazing. He was using that, and that's definitely the way to go. I don't actually own that plugin yet, but it is a really good one for sure. I'm going to show you one other way to do this that isn't the reflex. And also, I don't know how to use reflex. I'd have to brush up on how to use it again, but it is a good one. There's another one here that you can use, which I've demonstrated once before. I think I have a tutorial on it. Um, it is the liquefy tool, and you can, we just go into the head and go into open composition like that. Oh no, we don't want to do that. Sorry. We want to go open layer. Open layer. So now we can play with this liquefy tool here. And what I could do is just sort of, we want to go liquefy. We could just sculpt the head a little bit. This is sort of like a blend shape in a way. So if I space this up, make this bigger, great. And now what I can do is just pull this whole thing over. Okay. like that. And then I think I can just, if I turn it on and off a little bit, I can sort of see what I'm doing. Pull this nose a little wider. Pull this nose out a bit. Okay, turn it on and off. And then pull this eye out a bit. It's gonna be so crude. Okay, so you can see how we're just starting to get the feeling of a head turn. Now, the nice thing about this method, oh, and we want to bring those cheeks out a bit too. This is just ridiculous. I mean, it's kind of silly that we're doing this, but bring this over, bring this out a bit. Okay, so we sort of got this thing working a little bit. I mean, it's not the best, but it's something. I might stretch this out a little bit more. Okay, so I feel like it's sort of happening here. Let's bring this in a bit. Just gonna keep jumping back and forth until I have something that feels pretty good. Okay. Remember, it's not meant to be perfect. It's just to give the idea. Okay. It's all right. I mean, it's not. I mean, come on. All right. This could probably come out a little more. I'm just getting it right to the edge because it's going to crop off the edge, unfortunately. Okay. So now that we have that done, so we have this little weird head turn thing. Now, obviously, adding head turns there's a whole bunch of other things you have to do now. So we can literally slide this controller now. So we can hook this up to something like so you can make it go beyond 100. We can hook this up to a little head turner, so just like we did with the blink. And we would also need it to adjust the ears. I'm just going to do this, even though this is adding a bunch of extra time I shouldn't be taking for this, but I'm going to do it since we've started demonstrating it. So I'm going to take the blink, I'll duplicate this thing, get rid of the animation on it, and we'll call it head ROTY. Okay, so it'll be the Y rotation of the head. And what we can do is we can link this the deformation of the head here. It's really basic. I mean, it's just another crude thing. And if the puppet tool is expanding properly, it shouldn't affect the puppet tool in any adverse way. Okay, so we can go distortion mesh percentage, and I'm just alt clicking that, and we'll tie it to head rotation Y. We'll probably add a multiplier to that to make it more effective. Now the other thing we can do is take ear left, and we'll grab its position, keep it where it's at, it's fine, but we're going to add plus. We're going to use what Colin demonstrated earlier, which is we're going to add 0 to the, we're going to add, this head rotation here. Well, actually, let's create a variable just so it's not so messy looking. So we'll just go head ROTY equals this guy, that, and then we'll have to do a multiplier plus, and then we'll put head ROTY, comma 0. There. Already learned some things today. So now, when we play with this, we can start seeing what's happening. Let's go plus. So that ear rotates over. You can see it rotating or moving. It's translating a little bit. We also need to do it to this bottom one because I have two things on this. It's just meant to be really subtle, but I have another ear. It's on ear left. This guy here. want the one that's at the bottom of the ear. That's right here. Not meant to be animated. I'll just paste the exact same code there. This is not an example of a really professional rig. This is a very put together, kind of slap together thing. So that ear should probably travel a little less. Okay, so let's just take this and go. Or the alternative is to increase this times 2. Okay. So yeah, just take these as concepts more than anything else, because they're not, it's really a little bit shoddy and messy. Okay, so then I can do the same thing for the right ear, which is here, and we're just going to, we'll do the same thing, but this time we'll subtract it. So we'll go minus. And what that'll do is that'll just help sell the rotation, because both ears will move in opposite directions of each other. So you can see we get a little bit of that feeling of a head rotation. And the nice thing about using the liquefy tool is that you can tweak it. So if you're not happy with how it's moving, you can tweak it a little bit. Now the only other problem we have, which is just, this is the added complexity of this whole thing. Let's just move this. This is the jaw rotator, or the head rotator. We have a jaw, there's a jaw, unfortunately. And the jaw does this. So now the jaw too, unfortunately, has to move a little bit. So we have to grab this again. This one here. And do the exact same thing to probably a significantly lesser degree. Or maybe not significantly. Well, let's just see. This rotator is going to be used very sparingly. Oh, opposite direction. This is like a, I'm really just showing you guys this because we're ultimately this puppet is not set up for this whatsoever. Times 0.5. So we're just doing a very nominal shift in the jaw just to give it something. I think too in my effect here on the head, I didn't mess with the front of the nose. So let's just go here. We'll open that layer up, and we'll put this. Just click this off. Put this to 100, and I just need to modify right here. Oops. This, like, I don't know. I'm not proud of this, honestly. This is like pretty sloppy, but I think it's going to work. I mean, that's the main thing. It'll work. It'll work for the shot. It'll do what it needs to do. It's a bit all over the map, but honestly, when you're trying to be quick with stuff, sometimes that's the only choice you have. There we go. So it's just a really subtle head rotation. Might give us just enough to feel, I don't like what this bottom cheek is doing. This is another thing. You see that cheek is moving too far. We just opened a huge can of worms here. Okay, no more after this. We gotta just live with what we got here. Oops. The other thing, liquefy can, oops, I'm using my hotkeys. I'm forgetting my, liquefy can really, it'll make things a bit fuzzy. So again, it's not ideal. This is too much. Plus you can end up actually with quite a mess on your hands, and it's really hard to, you can't just reset it back to 0. I'm just gonna bring all this back in just a bit. Okay, let's just leave it. Okay, equals, there we go. Cool, I think we've done enough on this guy for all 2 seconds of its animation. So there's a little bit of head rotation there, which is good. Once everything's moving and kind of happening at once, this will just add enough little extra stuff to make it feel good. So I think that's done. This rig is good enough. I'm not adding breathing stuff to this guy. It's all meant to be pretty much straightforward. As you can see, it's already quite elaborate. The final stage for putting this rig together is just separating out all the things that I want to actually control and putting a keyframe on them. So if I was really wanted to be more precise with this too, I would add a certain level of, well, actually, we could do that. So we're going to go like this. Because then we're not even going to have to touch this head controller thing, hopefully. The only problem is we didn't address, anyways, so let's see what happens. So we're going to take this plus we'll take a percentage of this, a certain amount of that, and add it to the head rotation. Hopefully it will just like super subtle. And because we can't get less than 0, it won't do anything here, which is fine. But if we go over this way, we'll get a little bit of the head rotation. Let's put it to like point. We want it to be pretty nominal. So if we go over here, the head will rotate. So let's we'll just keyframe a quick look at a little blink position here. So we'll have this little blink and the head will move over here. And then we'll put a little dip in the middle so we can get a little bit up and down. And we'll just put a little ease on that and there just to see how it looks. And then when he blinks again, we'll bring the head back, and that'll be a super fast little blink. So right there, so let's just copy this, copy, and we'll put this to 0, and just a little dip in the middle, lower dip. Cool, and this will be this, and F9, F9. Let's see how this looks again. Then we're gonna stop. I gotta stop work for a bit until tonight. Oh man, now we have like 5 viewers on, and I'm gonna be leaving. Okay. So I'm just rendering this out, and also when I'm animating it, I'll probably turn the liquefy filter off because it can be a bit heavy. As you can see, the render is taking a bit of time. I could probably turn it up a little bit because it's not as offensive as I thought it would be. So let's just, instead of 0.05, we'll put it to 0.1, see how that feels. I'm just trying to avoid it looking horrifically ugly. Okay, wonk. It's just like a little half blink. Okay. It's subtle, but I think it's working. I mean, it's not as horrifying as I thought it would be. And I could probably like lower this down a bit. Let's do this one too. I thought it would look way worse than that. So it kind of looks okay. The second blink is awful, but it's not, it was just a test. So it's like, but I think it's working. I think the head's working really nice. Cool. It's subtle, but it's working. Let's try to crank this up just a touch more and see if we can get a little more out of it. It's different when everything's moving. It doesn't feel as rotten. Okay, let's just turn off this head control so we can actually see some things. I think that looks okay. Um, for anyone who's still there, I'm actually I got what's it called? Moho. I grabbed a license of Moho and I'm going to be learning it. I'm going to start learning it. I'm not sure. I mean, you guys can let me know if you're interested or not, but I was thinking of possibly having a day when we do our schedule, a day on the stream of trying to figure out Moho. And I don't know how frustrating it'd be to watch me muddle through that. But I'm definitely. I thought it might be something to do. Um, I haven't put my serial number in yet. I thought it might be something to do to play with. Let me just see this. This custom content folder. Put it on my Astra. My drives are getting very full. Nothing's happening. New folder. Oh no. Okay, nothing's gonna happen. Oh, there it is. Um, Put it there. Delete that. Yes. See you later. There you go. Okay. The only reason I'm opening this is because there's some good demo content on there um, that they show when you open it up. And for anyone who's, I mean, I haven't even played with it, so I thought it might be cool to learn it and try to see what it would be like to go from being an After Effects animator into Moho and trying to see what it actually works like and what kind of things we have to face to try to make it work, and all the different things in the interface and what's it like to work with. This is some of the demo content. It's pretty neat, and they have some really neat basic 3D layers that they're doing, like with this little guy's wings. They have some built-in physics and dynamics. I'm not sure. I have not even touched the surface, so I thought it might be cool to check out together and come at it from an After Effects perspective and see what the benefits, what the pros and cons are, and see if it has as much control as After Effects. I mean, obviously one of the strengths of After Effects is being able to code and plug in your own little JavaScript controls. Um, but there could be a lot of benefits here if they already have a lot of dynamics and physics built into it. And I haven't even, like I said, I haven't even explored any of this stuff yet. So it might be cool to check out. Anyways, I won't get into this, but I just wanted to let you know that was something I was thinking of doing. And if you're Spun Reader, you're saying yes, please. And obviously there's only 4 of us here, probably including our cheetah. But I thought it might be neat just to go through it and start figuring it out together. And I guess some people might want to see it. Cool. Okay. Well, I think this little guy's done for now. I think the next step will be to just animate him up. I'm going to turn off that face, the little face effect, because I think it's actually one of the things that's stopping my real-time preview feedback right here. But anyways, so I will stream again hopefully really soon. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all your help, guys. I really appreciate it once again. Oh, I should also just really quickly, I finished the bicycler shot. Since you guys, I think Spunrita and Colin are still here, I finished this guy, the little forest shot here of the bike ride. I'm not sure if I've shown it yet, but I finished him, and I think he turned out pretty good. He's actually it's a really fun rig because he animated really quickly. All I really had to keyframe is his butt and his legs, or like how fast his pedals turned. and then the rest was just throwing on some little effects and stuff like that. So it was actually pretty fun. Okay, well, cool. I'm gonna sign out. Thank you. Thanks again. Thanks for your help, and thanks for also you two were very helpful. Well, everyone on the stream was really helpful with helping me set this guy up too. So we'll go over that. I'll do a little breakdown of how it all worked out and how the rig was set up. So thanks again.